Democrats are worried about a new law that is confusing college students and could depress voter turnout in a bellwether swing state, New Hampshire, in the wake of 2016, in which Donald Trump lost New Hampshire by a razor-thin margin. The GOP-controlled state legislature passed House Bill 1264, requiring voters to register as permanent residents if they want to vote. New Hampshire has a huge population of college students. There was more than 60,000 in the fall 2015 semester. Now, many of them come from out of state. In fact, at just 3 schools, there were about 13,000 out-of-state students who this law would really impact. Keep in mind, in a state where elections are decided by just a few thousand votes, these kind of laws make a big difference. And to be clear, all of these students can still vote in New Hampshire. But the law says if they do, and they drive, since they're now permanent residents, they also have to update their driver's licenses and register their cars. Now, some of this gets a little confusing, so let's consider a hypothetical here. Let's meet Sam. He's a New Hampshire college sophomore, and Sam wants to vote. He has a car, he drives to a job off campus, and he'll need to register his car and update his license within 2 months of registering to vote. And that could cost him hundreds of dollars. Where it gets confusing, though, is when you consider Sam's friend Amy. Amy also wants to vote, but she doesn't have a car. She does occasionally borrow Sam's car on the weekends. Does that make her a driver? Students, and even the people who register students to vote, say they're not really sure. Democrat and voting rights activists worry that just talk of this law will keep people from voting.
Unfortunately, when we're tabling and when we're organizing, when we're canvassing, when we're talking to student voters, we hear far too often the phrase, "Oh, I thought I couldn't vote in New Hampshire anymore." And that's a direct result of HB 1264, and that's exactly what New Hampshire Republicans were looking for when doing this.
The ACLU of New Hampshire and the state's Democratic Party have sued the government, and politically active students on campus are mobilizing to try and clear things up. Republican lawmakers are quick to point out that many states have a permanent residency requirement for voting. They say they're just making sure that the people who vote in New Hampshire actually live in New Hampshire. But it hasn't been a simple rollout. The law went into effect last July, and the state couldn't explain how the law would be implemented. In September, the state attorney general said people could call the DMV with questions. Finally, in December, a 19-page document with 5 pages of question and answers gave residents the most clarity yet. Of course, this matters a lot for the general election, where younger voters are a key voting bloc for Democrats. But it could also be an issue in the primary, where 5 leading candidates are all vying for every vote. Voting rights activists will tell you, when you make voting laws more confusing, less people vote. And in a state where 1,000 people's votes decided a Senate seat, even a couple votes really do matter.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.